We are the Confident Communicator, and I am Seema Mehta, along with my partner, Deepma Jadeja. Welcome to Imperfect Parenting. Together, let's get on a journey of discovering kindness, success, and happiness courageously, fearlessly, and by holding ourselves to a standard of grace, not perfection. It is our mission at the Confident Communicator to empower kids and adults discover their own uniqueness through our coaching, training, and soft skills program. We welcome you to a new chapter of Imperfect Parenting, a series dedicated to discovering our own uniqueness without judgment by chiseling away all superfluous materials within ourselves. The point about why everybody around you who can be very involved in a child's ecosystem, who can actually prevent this from happening, not just children, but even adults, we still don't realize that there is trouble. There's trouble brewing, right? So can we just talk a little bit about why this is not there in our culture? Is it a cultural thing? Is it something that we say, you know what, let's not get involved? It's like, simple thing like bullying. Children in school get bullied all the time. It's a very known fact. We have like people are very proud of the ragging that they do in like colleges like IIT and all. It's very well known, right? But we don't want to talk about this very openly. We don't discuss this very openly. Recently, mental health is a conversation that has come out in the public. People are talking about it a little bit more. But what is this reticence? What is this resistance to talking about something that is so critical that can prevent a life from being taken away? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So I think the main issue here is related to the fact that it is a huge stigma. People are unwilling to talk about this because there's not enough awareness. And when there is not enough awareness, then you don't know how to approach the topic. And unfortunately, I remember when we were incubated at IIM Bangalore and we met the chairperson for the PGP program, and she was saying, do you know, Nelson, that a few decades back, people were afraid to say the word cancer because if you said the word cancer, that you would get cancer.
Right.
And I know of highly educated, very people doing really well in their careers, but I remember one of my friends. He said that when I was getting divorced, I couldn't use the word divorce in my family. I couldn't use the D word at all because it is a huge stigma.
So much stigma, yeah.
Lots of stigma. So the stigma is preventing us from talking about it. I mean, it's so difficult to say the word suicide because you're so scared.
Yeah.
You said the word that, will I start thinking about it myself? Will the person hearing about it start thinking about it? So I want to dispel that main myth. The myth about talking about suicide will lead to suicide is a myth. It is false. In fact, research suggests that talking about suicide will lead to more suicides being prevented because the person who's feeling suicidal will feel free to be able to talk about what they're really going on.
Yeah, and that is probably the reason why today this is our conversation, because we want to talk about it. We want to bring it out there. It's something that we all as parents have to face and deal with, because only then we can prevent it. So that's why this is such a critical conversation.
Let's assume that you've experienced trauma in your own life. You'll pass on that trauma, which is basically the intergenerational trauma. And you may be reacting to your own kids in a way which is passing on your own trauma, right?
So what you're saying is what parents have experienced as children themselves.
Can be passed on because of the trauma experience.
So through genes or through experiences? In what way is it passed?
There's both genes, but it's also mostly to do with your experiences and your environment, the home environment.
Okay.
So that's why I said, if you find out after taking the quiz you have a high ACE score, please get a medical diagnosis.
Right.
Post that, try and experience your own healing. Then you can, if you find that your own kid is experiencing some of the things that we spoke about, then they can take a test And of course, I always recommend that they go to a trained medical professional to be able to, what you find online, taking a quiz might be a good indicator, but it's not the, it is not a medical diagnosis. So
Yeah, it's like people looking at Google for, I might be having cancer, signs of cancer, and then suddenly they rush
yeah,
to the. So yeah, so let's take the right steps. First do this. First do the test. Determine where you are.
yeah,
Then approach a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, and then get the diagnosis done properly. That is the
yeah,
right
yeah.
approach, and we would caution all our parents to pay attention to that. Yeah.
But there is this thing about when parents start to, one is to show that they themselves have been through this. Children start to then feel, oh my God, okay, my own father or mother has gone through this, and I don't feel like a bad person.
Yes.
Most of the kids inside, because of the high level of judgment and that is happening, they feel that they are bad people. So they end up feeling helpless, that there's nobody to help me. They end up feeling worthless, that I am not worthy. They end up feeling hopeless, that there is no hope, and they feel trapped. Also, there is this concept which is called, which most parents don't understand, is that the kids are making very silly mistakes. But these mistakes are all linked to what is called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is designed by nature in a way where it is not fully developed till the time you're 25.
Right.
The prefrontal cortex is continuing to develop. So kids are actually kids till the time they're 25. In fact, there's a difference between males and females. Females may develop it by the time they're 25, but for males, it may take a little while longer. The reason for this is the prefrontal cortex, it takes longer to develop, is because till the time they're 13 or 14, they're in a controlled, safe environment in the family, and the parents are helping them out. Now the parents cannot continue to help them out because eventually parents are not going to be around when they need help.
Yes.
Now, nature has designed a certain part of your brain to say, go and make your own mistakes, go and learn on your own, go and experiment, go find out how to deal with adversity,
Yeah.
consequences. And during this time, nature has blocked the part of your brain which thinks through the consequences of your actions. So the prefrontal cortex is involved in thinking through the consequences of actions. Adults will think, saying, if I did this, these are my consequences. The prefrontal cortex has been fully developed. With kids, it's not. The reason why they don't think through the consequences is if they thought through the consequences, then it's like presenting a lesson before it's learned.
Correct. Right. Correct.
So now they don't know what the lesson is of this action.
Yes.
And therefore they have to experience it, and they have to fall down, and then they learn.
Absolutely.
So we as adults have to be there and say, it's okay.
Yes.
I know you did this. I know you fell down. I know you made a mistake. And kids are like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I did this. But most parents would be like, didn't you think about this? Didn't you think about us? Didn't you think about this? Yeah. And they judge them, they belittle them, they scream at them. Now you're causing pain, but they really have no control. There's a big difference between kids now and kids when you were growing up. And I'll tell you, there are so many things I want to discuss, but I'll quickly say this. There is absolutely not the same thing. Kids these age are experiencing the most amount of stimulation. They have access to Instagram, Snapchat, Tinder, Grindr. They are being online bullied. Because of Instagram, they have body image issues. They have to be the highest performing, the best looking, the most popular, figure out their next move in their career. It's unbelievable the kind of pressure they have.
There's a lot of pressure, yeah.
And unfortunately, also because of COVID, they haven't developed life skills. They don't have emotional resilience. Please don't blame them. They're not born with this. It has to be developed.
In fact, there's one additional thing that we always talk about is that when we were growing up, I mean, it's not like there were no drug addicts or suicide happening at that time. But why it is seen more now is because we were growing up in a very different world. And like
Yeah.
you said, the kind of pressure that our children are going through, the
Yeah.
expectation by 16, you should know what career you want to get into, which college you want to get into, what you want to do in your life, how you are looking. Everybody is looking at your picture. How many number of likes did you get? All of these external pressures, we didn't
Yeah.
have it in our world. So we
Yeah.
have to recognize as parents that they are living in a very different world, and that we need to
Yeah.
be able to be having the sense of empathy towards our children in every. So there is a
Yeah.
concept called gentle parenting, which is
Right.
where you're not like a helicopter and say, why did you do this, what did you do this for,
Yeah.
you have to do this. We cannot do that anymore. We'll have to have a dialogue, and that has to
Yeah.
start with a place of understanding and empathy.
Absolutely. Understanding, empathy, gentle parenting. And I want to introduce a concept which is called unconditional positive regard. Unconditional
Ah,
positive regard is
I
developed
think
by
Nina talked about this too. She talked about
Carl
this
Rogers.
unconditional positive.
Uncondi- so unconditional positive regard is, so you have unconditional love. You may have unconditional love for your kid, but if you do not have unconditional positive regard, you're mostly going to impact them negatively. Unconditional positive regard is the ability to regard your kid positively, regardless of the condition they are in. You have to understand that we are living in extraordinary circumstances, and you not being kind to yourself. Start off being kind to yourself.
Yes.
Start off being kind to your own self and say, it's okay, I'm an imperfect parent. It's okay that, I am not 100%. It's okay that I did this when I was unable to think. And I was unable to, and don't blame yourself. Be kind, self-love, self-compassion, and unconditional positive regard needs to start with yourself.
Yes.
Start regarding yourself with positive regard, regardless of the circumstances that you're in.
Addiction is not the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yes.
And making the right connections within our
So true.
ecosystem is very important. Children need to feel that sense of connection where they feel comfortable enough. There's no judgment. There
Yeah.
may be a reaction which may not. I think children are pretty smart. I don't think they expect the parents to be all, oh, it's okay, beta, you had drugs, it's fine. I don't think anybody expects that. But
Yes.
also they do expect that that the parents take the time to understand what hole are they trying to fill, right? What is
Yes.
this emotional gap that they're trying to fill, and how can we support them through that? And
Yeah.
Yes.
Two most important things when everything else fails is to ask, how are you feeling right now? And how can I help you
Yes.
feel better? So let them talk, let them cry, because the moment they feel like saying, oh my God, my mother is asking me how am I feeling and how they can help me, they're not judging me, they're not trying to make me feel better. Also,
and it's not a lonely journey anymore, because you now have a partner with whom you can
yeah,
share the
yeah,
trauma that
it's
you're
not
feeling.
lonely. They so helplessness, you need to say, I'm here to help you. Hopelessness, saying I can provide you hope. Worthlessness, I am feeling like a piece of shit, saying that no, you are not, you are still worthy, you
Yes.
scored these marks, that is not who you are, you
Correct.
did this, that is not who you are, this single act does not define the person you are. I think what can you do? You can develop a concept of, let's say, mental health hygiene. Mental health hygiene is the same. You have teeth, so we brush. A good habit is to floss. A good habit is to use mouthwash, and to gargle, after a meal and so on. So mental health hygiene is, let's say, you wake up every day, you brush your teeth, you shower, you wear on clean clothes. So that's physical hygiene. Mental health hygiene is the same concept, which is every day when your kid comes back, or every week if you don't have time, sit down and say, what went through the week? What affected you? What made you feel unsafe?
Right.
Psychological safety is a very important aspect, because
Wow,
we're
that's
all
a very
searching.
powerful question. What made you feel unsafe?
What
That's a
made you
very,
feel
very good
unsafe?
question.
Because we are all seeking safety.
Yes.
We felt most safe when we were in the womb, and the moment we were born is the first traumatic experience of childbirth.
Correct.
Suddenly thrown into that light, and the kid starts to cry. and then
Yeah.
they want to feel safe, and the mother holds them,
Yeah.
and so on, right? So
Right, right.
you the same way, ask them what made you feel unsafe, what
Yes.
made you feel angry, what made you feel ashamed, and so on. Let them talk, right? And then try and address this. And I think mental health hygiene is also about saying what are factors, just like you make sure that you're feeling physical hygiene. There are factors: eating right, exercising. Same way for mental health hygiene, you would need to make sure that they get some time with nature. Make sure
Right.
that they don't. One of the biggest thing you're going to avoid is screen time, because there's a direct link between increase globally. There's an increase in in depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and completed suicides. And the link is very direct towards use of cell phones and screen
Wow.
time.
Wow. Yeah.
Start off with something spiritual.
Yeah.
Start off with purpose and meaning, that there is a purpose
Yes.
and meaning beyond marks, beyond your identity, beyond the way you look. If you provide your kids a deeper purpose and meaning for life, saying let's start volunteering, let's help
Yes.
the neighborhood,
Yes.
let's help our domestic help, then they start to think, okay, my life has meaning, it has purpose. And then start saying, why don't you have a hobby, have an interest? Why don't you get out into nature? About saying, why don't you start gardening? So
Yeah.
then slowly start developing life skills. How do you manage money? How do you, mainly I would say, how do you handle relationships? How do you handle conflict?
Connections.
How do you, and then you build the concept of resilience. The resilience is about saying,
Yeah.